my name is Carolyn Wyman, and I play the viola. Now, the viola is a member of the string family, and it's like the big brother or the big sister of the violin. It's a little bit bigger, as you can see, but the big difference is that it's got this lower C string, and I'm going to play this for you. It's so beautiful. And the other three strings are G, D, and A. And those are the same strings that the violin has. But the viola is so beautifully resonant with this beautiful C string. So I'm going to play now a C scale for you so you can hear the full range of the viola. So it's nice and resonant. It's also the same range that we normally speak in, which is makes it very easy to listen to. The most unique thing I think about the viola is that it has its very own music clef. Now, if you know anything about the piano, you know that the treble clef is for the right hand, the higher notes, and the left hand is the bass clef for the lower notes. But the viola is right smack dab in the very middle of those clefs, so it has its very own middle clef. And its middle C, which is the middle of the piano, is also the middle of the viola. This is middle C here. That's the very middle of our clef. And so when you learn the viola, you get to learn a whole new clef, all of your own, and it's very unique. And it's very, you'll be the star because you're the only one who knows this alto clef. And actually that's part of the reason why not very many composers have written for the viola is really because of the clef. You know, I had a very good friend who was a concert pianist, and he arranged some beautiful Rachmaninoff for me. But because he was unfamiliar with this alto clef in the viola, he had a really challenging time doing it. But he did do it, and he dedicated it to me, and I thought that was so sweet that he took the time and trouble to do that. But it's because you have to think in a whole new clef. You know, Beethoven was deaf in his older age, and because he was such a musician, he could still compose because he could think of the music. And so composers do think in the clef that they are familiar with. And so if they're unfamiliar with certain notation, like the alto clef, then it's much more challenging for them. But it's such a beautiful instrument, and it's the only instrument in that range, and it's the range closest to the human voice. So now I'm going to play something that you will all recognize. It's very familiar. Now, when I did the plucking on the viola and all the violin, the string instruments and the symphony orchestra, that's called pizzicato. Pizzicato. Can you say that word? Pizzicato. It's an Italian word that means plucking. And of course, as you know, on the guitar and the harp, they call it plucking. But on the viola and the violin and cello and bass, we call it pizzicato. So now you've learned something about the Italian language a little bit. Now, I started to play the viola in 5th grade. And the reason why I picked the viola, actually, I really wanted to choose a different instrument. But my mother was a musician. She played the piano and the voice, and she went to music school. And her favorite dream of all things was to listen to the string quartet. And she had 4 daughters, and I was daughter number 2. Daughter number 1 asked to play the cello, which is the big instrument on the floor. It's the base of the string quartet. The viola is the second instrument up. And so she said, well, Carolyn, I think you should play the viola. So I thought, well, that's a good idea. So I did, and I've been playing it ever since. Now, to finish the story, daughter number 3 did play the violin, and daughter number 4 then decided on the flute. So my mother said, well, that's okay, because it's a flute quartet. Mozart wrote a flute quartet for flute, violin, viola, cello. So my mother was happy, and we were all happy with our instruments. So that's how I chose the viola, and I'm so glad I did. I just love the resonant sound of it. Now I'm going to play a gavotte for you. A gavotte is a French dance from the 16th and 17th century, back in the days of George Washington, the days of the founding of our country. It's written by a very famous composer, Johann Sebastian Bach. And the reason why I've chosen this piece is, well, I do love it. But also, when I was taking a class with other teachers, the instructor wanted to know what was our favorite piece of music, and over half the teachers chose this gavotte. So it's very, very beautiful. But there's something I want you to listen for. There's a recurring theme. I'm going to play the recurring theme for you, and I want you to count how many times you hear that recurring theme. Here it is. This is the recurring theme. That's the recurring theme. Now, it might sound like it happened twice, but that's the actual one time, that's one reoccurrence. So now I'm going to play the whole gavotte for you by Johann Sebastian Bach. It's called Gavotte in G minor, and I hope you enjoy it, and you can count the recurring themes. So how many times did you count that recurring theme? Now, if you counted 3 times, that's absolutely correct. But because the recurring theme has kind of a repeating part to it, you might have counted 6 times. And if you counted 6 times, then that is perfectly correct in itself also. Now, this rondo theme is actually a form of music called the rondo form, and back in the 17th, 16th century, that was a form of music. And today, that's where we get the term round from. So like row, row, row your boat and Frere Jacques, those are rounds. And that's where that term round came from. It comes round and round, just like you heard in the Gavotte. So now, I have one little short piece that I'm going to play for you that you will all recognize. It's just part of a piece. And the reason why I chose this piece, well, because I love it and I think you will probably like it too, is that when you play a musical instrument, you get to choose other music that you like and enjoy and can kind of figure out on your instrument. And then for like a birthday party or a holiday party with your family and your friends, you can play some of this music and have everybody sing along, because it's so wonderful to have people sing. You know, music does unite us all, and it's a wonderful celebratory time to have singing and music together. Now this one, you actually can't sing to, but you'll enjoy it, I hope. That's it. So I hope you enjoyed learning something about the viola and that you will consider choosing it as your instrument, because you will not be disappointed and you will love it as I love it. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.